We're kicking it kind of old school with this lecture, but we still use them a lot. We see them a lot in professional and business situations. So let's talk about what memos are, because they are very important in the professional writing field. So quick definition of what they are. Memos are written, well, I should typed out, very digital genres. They're brief, again, because we're really jumping into concise writing forever now. They're brief notes used to communicate. They can outline an issue, an agreement, a policy, or any kind of news that the organization should know about. So thinking about format, I have more of a visual on this PowerPoint once we get into it more, but the word memo, or in full spelling memorandum, should be placed at the very top of the document. If it's not there, it's already not following the genre conventions of a memo, so make sure you have that. It can be centered or bolded, however you place it is up to you. So these are just a few examples. These are very plain, but that's the point. So we have to think about that. They're very concise and they're very just direct in design, but very professional looking. So that's that word memo we need somewhere at the top. Memo, memorandum, either one. I'm going to go into the rest in a little bit. Memorandum is a different one. Very, very exciting with the black and white, but no, they need to be this way because they're very formal. They're important. They're like an email, right? Emails are very simple in design. This one surprisingly has some kind of design. I don't know what it says, but think about the rhetorical situation. If you're representing a law office, a school, if you are a corporate company, they're very simple, but it just depends on the rhetorical situation. So if you think about, well, I have another example later in here, but if it's more for a creative event, then it could have a little bit more colors, more design, but overall they're usually just that simple black and white format. But you're just thinking about the rhetorical situation again, and that's how you design it. So when you're thinking about the parts of a memo, it needs to have at least these 4 headings: to, from, date, and subject. That makes it look more like the conventions of a memo versus a letter. A letter has that letterhead information at the top of the addresses, the date, and things like that, and your address as well. An email, has the subject line, also like this one does, but it has email addresses at the top, and that's it. So to, from, date, subject in this format, the audience immediately knows it's a memo. So understanding genre conventions are so important with these. So take a look. I already gave you the answer, but you can get an idea of, there's 3 different samples here. And think about which one is correct in design, which one looks the nicest. Sample 1 does not, because look how crowded it is right here. So you want to have spacing because it looks unprofessional if you don't have it. Sample 2 is fine, but it's not the best because it's still not using that design principle of alignment. So sample 3 is correct because all of this information is evenly aligned, both here and here. Maybe as a student you're thinking, who cares, what's the difference? But you have to put yourself in that professional environment, and you want to be taken serious. So your design should also be taken serious as well. So sample 3 is what you want your memos to look like. So let's get into the memo, how it should fully look. So it should have that word memo again at the top, or memorandum. To, from, date, subject, and then who it's being sent to. So for this sample, it's to English 203 students. From, of course, include your name. But remember, if you're sending a memo, you are of a certain level in the organization that you're representing. So there's a reason you're sending the memo. So always give yourself some kind of title, because it lets your audience know who you are in case they're unsure. And it gives you that ethos, that authority, that trust as well. So make sure to always include some kind of title for yourself. The date, make sure it's the full date. This is old already, but wow, that's crazy. Time flies. But give it the full date, the month, the date, and the year. And then a subject is similar to a subject line in an email. You don't want to skip it because the audience needs to know what it's about. Now that we get more and more into business professional writing in this unit, you don't want to waste your audience's time. So when they see that subject line, they'll know if it affects them or not. If it doesn't, they won't read it. If it does, then they need to read it and they'll find out more. A subject should be no more than 5 words, let's say, to summarize what the point of your memo is. If I was sending a memo to you all, if I was sending this PowerPoint to you all in the form of a memo, I'd call it memo review. Because as students, you would know what it's about. It's about how to write a memo. It's a review of it. And if you don't care, which you should, right, if you're English 203 students in this class, but knowing what it is helps you as well. So always give yourself a title, though, as well. You know, memos are cut and dry. They're like emails. But I want you to have fun with it, but consider design principles. Alignment is always important, like we talked about with the to, from, date, subject, aligned evenly. But contrast is as well. Contrast, I think, is very important in memos because you want to highlight important words that can stand out against the text for the audience to focus on. Consider the rhetorical situation and the purpose, and consider who your audience is. So this is, you know, trying design. If you're using color, make sure it connects with the word memo and the to, from, date, subject. You know, you want consistency in memos. You don't want to get too crazy with color because they're very simple, but it depends on who you're representing. For example, this one does have a little more color and it includes an image and it's bright, but if you look at the purpose, to, we care, child care, staff, it's being sent to staff from me, and I'm the program director of this child care group. And it's about a book fair because it's a place for kids, it's for fun, it's an after school program maybe, for example. Then we can utilize some color. Book fairs are an event, so events we think of fun, we want people to go. The purpose is probably to persuade and inform. So using color is like, hey, this is going on, this stands out against the other memos being sent. So this is appropriate because of the rhetorical situation. Again, I wouldn't want to see this if I was the CEO of a company and I was informing clients about clients and employees about important policy agreements. You know, that's something that's I want to see in a simple black and white format. So again, just think about the rhetorical situation. So the body section of a memo depends what the type of memo is, but what we're focusing on right now is we don't want to waste the audience's time. So they immediately need to know what the purpose of the memo is. And this is called the descending order of importance, where you start with the most important, then it descends to the least important. So purpose is always goes, the whole point of the memo goes first, so that if the audience is not interested and it doesn't affect them, they won't read on. If it affects them, they'll read on to find more detail about what's going on. So purpose, main point, always goes first. Purpose shouldn't be a full paragraph. It should only be 1 to 2 sentences. That way they read it and they keep reading if they need to find out more. If they need to find out more, then the middle paragraph is actually a full paragraph and it explains the purpose in a little more detail. And then just closing details, maybe date, time, location if it's an event, or just last minute reminders, closing points, anything like that. And so the word descending order of importance sounds, to me it sounds like the opposite of what it is, but the descending order of importance starts with the most important information first, then descends to the least important. So that's what we're thinking about. I have 2 different examples because we're in an area with 2 different schools, just so you can think about the rhetorical situation. If I'm representing a school, I'm going to use the school colors because universities are about pride, right? So if you're thinking about NMSU, and if you all check your emails consistently, hopefully you do, right? But you'll notice that you get memos sent sometimes, but about once a month we get them. And they're usually from the dean or presidents, you know, things like that, sent to the worldwide campus, the campus-wide people. And so you all are included in that. And it usually has the NMSU colors as well. DACC also incorporates it as well. So thinking about school with pride, it's going to use the colors. It's going to be okay to use the school mascot and the colors in the memo because it's thinking about the rhetorical situation. But I want you to focus on this sample, and I want you to use this sample when you write the memos for this class because it uses that descending order of importance. So let's take a look at how your memos should be formatted. Remember to always have that word memo. If you want an image, if it's effective, if it's needed, you can put it here if you want. Don't forget the to, from, date, and subject. So to, for this purpose, it's to NMSU faculty, staff, and students. So it's a wide range of people, but it's under the umbrella of NMSU. No other school needs to see this. Memos are usually sent within an organization, and that's it. They're not really for outsiders. They're more for within the organization itself. They're inter-office communication based. So this is a wide range of people, but it's only for NMSU, and that's it. Maybe DACC. DACC is usually part of that NMSU umbrella as well. So I'm going to pretend I'm the dean of a certain college, dean of, let's say, liberal arts. So again, whatever you're writing, include your name and whatever title of an organization you want to be. It's usually somebody higher up in charge because they're the ones sending it. They're giving that sense of ethos, that authority, that trust. They include the date and then a few word summary of what the purpose is. So the purpose of this is a new food venue. So you get a little bit of an idea about some kind of new food venture that's occurring on campus. So if you're not interested in food, you're going to delete the memo and it's whatever. It doesn't impact you. If you're interested, you're going to read a little bit to find out more. So remember that you need to have that first paragraph. I'm calling it a paragraph, but it's not a paragraph. Of 1 or 2 sentences at the most of that clear purpose statement. So ask yourself, what is the main point of my memo? And the answer to that should be your opening purpose paragraph. So I have here, due to an overarching concern for unavailable healthy food options, Free Foods has accepted our business proposal of opening a small venue on campus. A new food venue is going to be available for everyone on campus. That's the purpose. So I have this parentheses to kind of remind you. This is the purpose and is only 1 sentence, 2 at most. Why? Because you're thinking of the audience's time and everybody's busy. So when they get that memo, they have time to read it, they open it, they read that first sentence, and if they're uninterested in learning about healthy food options, they'll delete the memo. If they want to find out more, they'll continue to read on because the purpose is also kind of vague. So that if the audience is interested, this middle paragraph expands in more detail. So you move on and you expand this into what I call background information or context. When you're giving context to something, it's detailed information about what's going on. So I need to explain what Free Foods is, when and where, and what are healthy food options. I need to be a little more audience aware. So that's what this middle paragraph, and this is more of a traditional paragraph, more information. So here I say, a recent survey discovered that both staff and students found the lack of healthy food options stalled campus improvement and overall satisfaction. Thus, this led to a business proposal submission to Free Foods, where the need for healthier options on campus seemed to be a staff and student plead. Healthy food options include, but are not limited to. Now that we're going more and more into business and concise writing, if you ever list information, make sure to always use bullet points because it's using design in that way. It's keeping your paragraphs still short and concise, and it's not overwhelming for the audience. It's easy for them to read through. So if you have a list, include a transition sentence, because if I didn't have this sentence right here, healthy food options include but are not limited to. If I didn't have that, but I had this list, it would be confusing to the audience. They may not know why this list is here. So introduce your lists always to be audience aware. So if my audience is thinking, what are healthier food options? I'm guiding them to this information here in the list. You don't want to end there because it's kind of random and I haven't told anybody when and where this is happening or how it works. Do you need to pay cash? You know, that closing detail information. And again, so that if the audience is still hanging on, they're still interested, they read that closing detail. So let me see. The venue will become available on campus next month on October 17th. Students can use their meal cards. Can't read what that says. My face is blocking this. Cash or credit for purchase. So this is the closing detail of when and where. And that's the full memo. They're usually short. They're usually not more than a page. They're usually about half a page like this one because, again, it's all about being concise and clear and for the audience to quickly read through it. So when you write your memos, make sure it follows this format of the opening purpose being short, expanding that purpose, the context, more information here, listing information if it's needed in bullet points, and then just last minute closing details and thoughts. Now the difference between a memo, emails and letters are similar in this way, and memos are very different in this way in that an email and a letter have the word sincerely, the closing remarks with your name, and a letter does that as well. So you don't need to put that on a memo. So make sure to not put your name, don't put from, don't put sincerely below this because all of that information is up here. Again, why? Because it saves the audience time. They get all this information up at the top, and then the memo itself is here, and then it ends on the closing detail. So that's what you're thinking about with memos. Use this PowerPoint whenever you write the overall professional memos that we are going to practice starting this week. So this is here for you to download and review.